Got me lifted, shifted higher than the ceiling. And ooh, it's the ultimate feeling. You got me lifted, feeling so gifted. Sugar, how you get so fly? Sugar, sugar, how you get so fly? Sugar, sugar, how you get so fly?
So, whatever the caloric intake or the sugar intake on the back is, you actually have to double that if you drink a whole bottle, which most people do. I mean, it's just a bottle of what you think is just water and vitamins.
Right.
So, you know, a penny's worth of vitamins is A, not that much, B, they're water soluble, and one of the points that the CSPI has made in their lawsuit is that the amount of nutritionally beneficial elements that are in vitamin water are like multi-times outweighed by the amount of sugar and calories in the same drink. So for Coca-Cola to even begin to market it as a health drink, because they're not even comparable, like the weights, is kind of like inherently offensive, let alone the fact that, you know, people kind of feel duped. And, you know, personally speaking, like, I was one of the vitamin water supporters from, like, in the beginning, you know, because I saw it in Wawa or something like that, and I picked it up and I was like, oh, vitamins and water, like, that's totally what I'm going for. Because I don't drink Gatorade because it has high contents of, like, sodium, which, you know, heavy athletes need, but I wasn't, you know, in need of that kind of sodium supplement. So I was like, oh, this is a great alternative, blah, blah. And I have to admit, like, even, you know, I'm usually very, very aware of, like, marketing ploys and schemes, and I consider myself able to go to the grocery store and kind of, you know, navigate around the visual, like, inputs, because I make those for a living, you know, so I can kind of see the tricks sometimes. And I, you know, it took me, I probably drank vitamin water for a couple of months before I actually sat down and read the label, you know, which is, for me to do that makes me think that the general public, of course, they're not gonna, you know, read the labels, because I didn't even read the label, and I'm always looking for this stuff. So, you know, I think it's interesting, and like I said, that goes back to, you know, Coke's marketing campaign was brilliant. It's just whether it's ethically appropriate or not.
Can we go back to what you said that vitamin water specifically picked colors? You commented on that. Can you go in further with that?
Yeah. We know as designers,
okay,
that certain colors communicate certain things to people. And there's actually, you know, when I was in school in undergrad, I took entire classes on, you know, using the right colors for the right products kind of thing. And I think that the colors that vitamin water used, first of all, having each bottle, what they did was fairly brilliant in the fact that, okay, so you take each bottle of each type of vitamin water. Each one's a specific color, and you associate it with a specific health benefit, you know. And that was also in CSPI's lawsuit. Like, their initial document was like the phraseology that Coke used for the health benefits of vitamin water. So, you know, you had like rejuvenate and focus and, you know, all of these words that are clearly communicating, like, they're making you associate that I'm going to get X benefit if I drink this bottle of vitamin water. And then on a base level, a more base level, you associate that with that color. And they pretty much, they were pretty on as far as the colors they picked for, you know, the words that they used for each bottle, along with the flavors. So if you look at if you were to, like, take a spread of vitamin water, it's very interesting. Because you have, like, I'm trying to think what was the one I drank all the time, which is terrible. I drank the orange one, whatever the orange one was called. And I want to say that was rejuvenate or something like that. It was some, like, happy, like, wake up word. It was like, you know, like that. And I don't remember specifically. I could probably look it up and find it. You know, so it's this bright orange, but they didn't use any colors. Like, all of their colors were kind of muted a little bit. Like, if you look at them, they weren't like neon.
Right.
Because we associate neon colors on a subconscious level with things that aren't real.
Okay.
So we know from marketing for the food industry that unless it's candy or something targeted for kids, we don't use neon colors. Because on a subconscious level, we think that that's fake. Right. So they muted down all their colors. So all of their colors that they used are these kind of, like, they're not all natural colors, because they used, like, purple and they used, like, orange and that kind of thing. But they took them down a few tones. So they're all a little
Almost
like
watered
washed
down.
out, right? Because they still want you to associate the drink with water. So because they want you to believe that a certain content of the drink is water, and they don't want you to think that it's unnatural, they use these muted colors, in combination with the fact that they hook them with the colors, with the words, with the flavors. If you talk to people who drink vitamin water, people are like married to their flavors. Like they know what color they like and they know why they like it, and you know, it's like, oh, I drink the orange one, or I drink the, and you notice people don't say I drink Focus.
Right.
They don't, because we associate color first. So I think it's interesting. And then they took those colors, so each bottle is certain colors related to the word, related to the flavor, and then they paired it with this very sleek typeset. You know, it's very modern feeling. It's very edgy feeling. It's a sans serif font. It's fine. And then, you know, they have this kind of like minimalist design with the white and the whatever the color is on the label. And it just makes you feel a certain way about the product. And that was the point. It's always the point when you're branding a product. Is they want to make the public feel a certain way. And they did. You know, they made you feel a certain way. And they used particular colors for a reason. And they used that font for a reason. And they used that design for a reason. You know. So marketing has to be intentional to be successful.
Right. You had talked a lot about the way Coke influences the public. But if you switch roles, what do you think the public should be doing in all of this? Should they be more informed? Are they being ignorant of what is on the label? Are they, you know, what is their role in this?
Well, I think the public plays an important role in this. Because I don't think that Coca-Cola is entirely to blame.
Okay.
You know, if we're asking the question like, is it the public being misinformed versus Coke not having 100% level of integrity? Right. Well, I don't think that those are standalone subjects.
Okay.
I think that Coke and Coke, you know, in their defense, not that I enjoy defending Coke, but in their defense, they are not the only, you know, organization in the food industry that does this same thing. They just happen to be under fire right now. But I think that the food industry is able to make the statements that they make and to do the things they do, not unlike what Coke has done with vitamin water, because the public has become complacent with being misinformed. So I think it's almost this like never-ending cycle of we allow organizations to have a lack of integrity because we're misinformed, and it just spirals into this. We become more and more misinformed, and the organizations become more and more dishonest because we allow them to be. I mean, just like marketing is intentional and that we play to certain elements of the public's thought process. You know, in the same sense, we are only successful as marketers or as companies or as organizations because the public allows us to be.
Right.
You know, I think that it's equally as true to say that Coke's marketing campaign with vitamin water would not have been successful if the public had been more informed about what was being put in front of them. At the same time, the public would not have been so misinformed if Coke hadn't been so crafty with their marketing campaign. I think that they go hand in hand.
They interplay.
They have to, because the existence and the success of each is dependent on the other. So I do think the public plays an important role, and I think that, you know, at this point, for such a high-profile company to be coming under fire for mismarketing or potentially mismarketing a product as a health food that's not, is a really good opportunity for the public to kind of step forward and say, okay, you know, what else, you know, how did a company think this is okay, you know, and B, how did we allow this to happen, and C, what else in our lives, or what other organizations, what other food industry organizations particularly, you know, are we misinformed about, and, you know, which other ones are being a little, you know, less honest than they should be, or a little less ethical than they should be. You know, so I think the hope is not for Coke to go down in flames here, but for the public to begin to see that they can play an active role in what is put in front of them, and what we put in our bodies, and what we, you know, put on the table, and what we buy into. Because just because a product is available doesn't mean that we have to buy it. And by not buying it, then we call into, you know, accountability the company.